Here's some of these directionals again. We went through them last week. They were a little bit different. These are more Kapahaka centered, Kapahaka focused. Kia rite, and beautiful how it's done right at the very beginning at any Kapahaka gathering or competition, or, you know, when they're all standing there and smiling and everything, and then all of a sudden this command comes out, Kia rite, kia rite, and that's like attention. Everybody gets ready. Hope. So after the attention, usually hope, and the hands go up on the hips. You saw that in those young girls in the front there, or in that small group in Toia Mai. They had their hands on their hips. That's always where Kapahaka starts, usually, if it's a waiata āringa. If you know, a waiata āringa is an action song where the hands are used. More te, they're more relaxed and they have their hands down by their side, which is hiraro. Hands drop down to your side. That's when they're doing a lament, or more te, or whakatauki, or tau parapara, or any of those sort of laments. The hands are generally down by their sides. Kia mau, again, be ready, or hold. So stop talking to the person next to you. Stop smiling to the person next to you and elbowing them. This is serious. Now you need to really, truly get ready. And kia wiri is try to do a wiri with your hands. It's like a shiver. If you were suffering from hypothermia, perhaps as a description, yes, that's called a wiri. And we do it all the time. Even when you're not doing Kapahaka, you'll find that if there's a group of people standing behind a speaker at some very auspicious gathering or something like that, you see there's an automatic, they automatically do it. They stand there and then all of a sudden their hands are down by their side. But they start to wiri because they're getting ready. They're getting ready to pump out that waiata for that speaker. They're ready to give a message through that waiata. The waiata often will, that supporting the speaker will often be something that's relevant in Kapahaka, relevant to their whakapapa, relevant to their pepeha, relevant to their maunga, relevant to a social justice issue, relevant to whatever the kaupapa is in that gathering. The group that are getting ready to do the waiata for the speaker, they've already started to wiri and get ready. Kia wiri, and you hear that command all the time. Takahi or takahia. Really, takahi is to trample. So takahi is used in a context often when people trample on you. And by that I mean they insult you, they offend you, they take away your mana. So takahi means to trample, and we often use it in our context about when somebody tramples on your mana, tramples on you and they offend you. So in this case, it's still that action of stamping or trampling, but it's the physical rather than the wairua getting bruised through you know, takahi te mana. And it happens. It happens. So takahia is when they start, you saw the girls start to swing and their feet started to lift in time with the music. It's a takahia. It varies from group to group. It varies from region to region. Rohe to rohe. Down in the East Coast, they've got a beautiful. They are drawn to a three What's the proper explanation for that? It's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You heard Kahu talk about it last week. It's a Ngāti Porou beautiful character in their kapahaka. So they are quite deliberate in their 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Whereas most other kapahakas is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, or 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's quite a different stance, but that's what takahi is that foot moving. We're not allowed to just stand there. Everything must move. And you heard Kahu say last week about the whole body talks. It's not just the hands. It's not just the words. The whole body talks. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful when you give your message, when you tell your story with your whole body. Ringa ringa pakia, that's when your hands are hitting the front of your thighs. And you see it with men doing the haka. So they start out by hitting their thighs really hard. And it's a way of, bringing to attention if they're greeting people. Look at me. I've got a message for you. Do you come as an enemy or do you come as a friend? Ringa ringa pakia. And it's rhythmic. It's usually rhythmic. Wai takahi, that's that foot, the foot stamping in that. So ringa ringa pakia, wai takahi, there are two commands that go together in kapahaka, and they go with the music, whatever the rhythm is. Neke here, move either to the right or to the left. Maui is to the right, and matau is to the left. You've heard neke, or you've heard kanuku no ku kaneke neke, kanuku no ku kaneke neke, titiro kinga wai o tokero e hora nei mehe pipi, wharauro a kitu a takoto te pai, takoto te pai. We've learnt that in Taha Māori. That's the anyone want to unmute themselves and tell me what that is? Caught you on the hop. That was the Ngāpuhi response to the gospel arriving in Orihi in 1814 from Luke. Move to the left, move to the right. Keep still. In other words, the proclamation of the gospel should not just be kept there. It needs to go out. That's what Kanukunuku Kaneke was all about. Whakapiri is what they do when they do a choral, when they come together, so they're all spread out on the stage, or they're all spread out, and then when the kaiako, or the leader of the group, says whakapiri, we all know that we have to make ourselves come together like a choral, like a choir. We all come together. And whakapiri is usually so that you can sing a choral or a himene. No actions necessarily are required. Whiua or ringa ringa, and you see the girls in that clip going like this. Sometimes it's down in front of you. That's what whiua means, is to sway those hands, ringa ringa those hands. So they're not just there. Sometimes they are. Otherwise, they're like that. Whakararangi here. Whakararangi here is to line up. Get in your lines. Stop mucking around. Come on. Get in your lines, please, folks. We've got work to do. Anō is probably, it's a good expression, particularly when someone is teaching or, enabling or trying to help somebody understand something, get them to do it again. Anō. And so, if you're practicing in front of the mirror, doing your te reo or your mihi or your whai kōrero, look at yourself and go, anō, and do it again. Lovely command, anō. It's an encouraging one. It can be, you know, a bit of a bossy one, but usually it's to encourage. Ka kaha, you already know that. Be strong, come on. And I kind of like to use it as more of a gentle, I use it in a gentle way. Kia kaha, kōrero mai, we went over that last week. Kōrero mai, kia kaha, kia kaha. You know, come on, you can do this, you can do this. Taringa whakarongo, listen up. Taringa is ear. And you certainly don't want your parents coming over and pulling on it, although I don't think you're allowed to do that in 2021, but you certainly were when I was a child. And if you weren't listening, yes, you were pulled by the ear. Am I any worse for it? Heck no. On the contrary, I'm for the better for it. Listen up. Kaore, that's something you hopefully won't have said to you. Don't. Kaore. It's usually said quietly. It's not loud. It's a quiet, you know, kaore. And it hurts a little bit if you're having that said to you, because they're telling you don't do that. Stop it. And you think that you might be doing good, but actually you're not. And of course it's followed up by that turi turi. You don't want that said to you either. Particularly on a one-on-one. In a big group, okay, yeah, we're talking to the girl in the front row and the third row and we're all in little groups. Yeah, you want the kaioka to bring everybody. If they don't say kia rite, or if they don't say kia mau, then, and nobody's taking any notice, then this is likely to be the next command. Turi turi, be quiet. Kaua e kata kata. I think I told you last week that we like to laugh at ourselves. We do it often, even when the person is not necessarily, some people might view it as, well, that's not very nice to laugh at that person who's just kind of, you know, tripped over that little stone on the pathway. It's not very nice to laugh at that person, but we do. We laugh and go, oh, we, you know, we start to laugh. And then this person might go, turi turi, you know, telling you, be quiet. You know, that was a rock. And you go, no, it was just a little pebble, you know, watch where you're going, that type of thing. So, kaua e kata kata means don't laugh at me. But it's in a nice way. It's in a cheeky way. And yeah, we have to use it a lot. Kaua e haere, not ready yet, you know, so you don't want people to go yet. They start packing up sooner than the announcements have come through, a little bit like in the church, I guess. You're about to do the announcements, but everybody's packed up and started to make their way down the back of the church. Kaua e haere. Taiho, oh, I should have put that in. Taiho is wait, T-A-I-H-O. Taiho, wait. And then after the announcements, after everybody's sat back down, you've had the announcements, you've had final hymn, right at the very end, you can go me kaputi tātou. Me kaputi tātou. Let's have a kapa. Inu wai, often said at Kapahaka when they're doing very, very hardcore Kapahaka. You know, it's like if you're doing any type of exercise, really, you're encouraged to drink. Keep your hydration up. Inu wai. Kia horo. Again, they could be said in a grumpy way or in a kind way, depending on how obedient you are. And kia oma, to run. You know, you better run. If they're laughing at you and you don't really like it, then you can warn them and say, you better get running. Run. Otherwise, if I catch you, look out. So there's some directionals. They're just lovely, they're warm, they're insightful, and they're just a couple of words that you can pick up. And if you said that out of the blue in your context, in a conversation with a Maori person, they'd be quite surprised if you said to them, you know, ano, because you didn't quite understand what they were saying, or you wanted some clarity. If you said that, gosh, I tell you what, they'd be blown away. And use it, because it's not wrong. It's okay to use it. Now, unfortunately, our guest has not turned up for probably reasons that unexpected reasons on his part. Nonetheless, I'll give you a little bit of an insight into him. Reverend Hira Paenga is of Ngāti Hine, Ngāti Kahu ki Torongare, Ngāti Rangi, Te Mā Hure Hure, Ngāti Konohi, Te whānau a Rua Taupare, ki Tūpāroa descent, just to name a few. So he's got all that blood running through his veins. He was born into a family of educationalists, and Te Hira has earned tertiary and postgraduate degrees from Auckland University, Waikato University, the Auckland College of Education, Te Pane Kire Tanga o Te Reo, and the College of St. John the Evangelist in Auckland. He's a father of many tamariki. I've lost count. I was going to ask him how many he's got, but he's up there. I think he's got about seven children or 8 children. His eldest, I guess, might be somewhere in late teens, if not early 20s. Te Hira has himself been immersed as an educationalist, so he followed in his parents' footsteps in many more ways than we can even imagine. He served in our Maori boarding schools. He was at Hato Petara, the Catholic school over on the North Shore. He was at Te Aute in Hukarere, and various others. He, just before coming here to Auckland, he was in Opotiki. He's taught in Kohanga Reo. He's been an enabler on marae. He's been a lecturer in Te Hāhi Mihingare, and esteemed, very esteemed Kapahaka circles. Now, it is worthy to suggest that no doubt he has helped young children and adults to become something more than they perhaps thought that they ever could be, like this perhaps. So who's to say that those kids from Taupo would not or will not end up on the rugby fields of the future, like these gentlemen here? Lovely, lovely clip of Taupo, and they're not just Maori kids, you will have noted. There was a good split of Maori and non-Maori. So Te Hira's been involved at that level, of the youngster level, teaching them everything about Kapahaka, about Te Ao Maori, Taha Maori, their language, and where they fit into the world. His work has been certainly well received by many in Te Ao Maori. He's currently the Dean of Tikanga Maori at St. John's College in Meadowbank, which no doubt it's been a bit challenging given that he went in there just prior to lockdown. I did show a clip earlier in the series of the pōwhiri for him, just a brief one. So the lockdown happened almost immediately after he was installed. So he's had to have, it's been very challenging for him to be at St. John's College and be in lockdown. He's currently studying for his PhD at Otago University, and his rangahau or research for his thesis or dissertation is the Theology of Maori Performing Arts, ngā I hoa tua o te Kapahaka. So he's looking at how Christian and Maori hahi or faiths, whakapono, religions, have influenced traditional Maori performing arts without risking taking away, anything that other people have spoken about Kapahaka and religion, Kapahaka and faith. That's what his current research is at the moment, and I was hoping that he'd help unpack that today. And so, yeah, without him, unfortunately, we can't. But he's, let me just have show you a clip of him. Yeah, that because he's not here, and I didn't ask his permission anyway. So, see, I'm laughing because I could get in trouble. See how we laugh? Even if there was a risk of me getting in trouble, because he would never have known this. I would have just played it and then, suffered the consequences afterwards. So I'm laughing about it because he's not here to stop me anyway. He wouldn't have been able to stop me even if he was here. But I do want to play this next clip. Te Hira was in politics as well. He comes from a family of politicians, not just educationalists. I don't know if he would have talked about that in his kōrero, but I would have asked him a couple of questions about it. But he was the promo. So I would have encouraged him to run again. It was just, he was close at that election, but yeah, he didn't quite get there. But I think his time in politics, he obviously wasn't then. But if he ran again, he'd have my vote in Tamaki Makaurau. Absolutely. Fine young man. And so, in his absence, of course, thank you, Chris, for all the stress and all the preparations you had made for us to give him a mihi of thanks. I appreciate that. I know he's going to feel stink when I contact him later.
Kia ora to Cynthia.
Yes.
Tahira's just come on.
Oh, has he just come on?
He's just come on.
Hi.
Hey, Te Hira. Oh, gee, did you hear me talking about you?
No, the last sentence about a mihi.
Oh, really? Really? Oh, look. Well, lovely. No, kei te pai. I know you're a busy person. Mō hio au. No mai, haere mai, piki mai. Ki te tātou nei hui kaupapa o taha Māori e hoa. Pai ki te kiti a koe, ngā mihi mahana. Ngā mihi. So I've given them all the blurb about you. told them how handsome and you know, you've got all these rippled ribs because you're a Kapahaka man. Told them all of that. They know all of that. And I did play a little promo, but I do want to, I just want to play this one little clip, which I thought was really cool. And I know you'd appreciate it because I talked about how many tamariki you have. How many have you got, Te Hira?
I've got 8 with my wife. It's a good way to fill the pews.
I did tell them that I thought it was 7, but there you go. It's at your right. And it fills a front row too, by the way, in Kapahaka. So thank you. But in my kōrero, in my lead up, and I'll hand over to you very shortly, was that, you know, it was worthy with all your mahi that you've done in education all around the motu. I won't repeat it. You know what it is. I couldn't help but think that no doubt in the past, in your kohanga reo days and in working with children and kids, tamariki, that, you know, that you have helped them to become something more than they ever thought that they could be. And like this, perhaps. Just an illustration of perhaps some of the work you've done in your mahi, Te Hira, about working with children, and that, you know, one day we never know, this is where they could end up, is performing that same haka on this field. No reire hoa. Let me just stop this. No mai hare mai anō e tā mātou hui huinga I roto I te āhuatanga o te pihopatanga o Tāmaki Makaurau. Tēnā koe Te Hira. Piki mai o manaaki mō te kaupapa taha Māori. Tēnā rā koe hoa. So I'll, without any further delay, hand it over to you. Kei a koe te papa, Te Hira.
Tēnā koe. Kia ora, Cynthia. Me tēnā kaupapa rangatira, kaupapa whakanui. And I'm really overwhelmed by the mahi that's gone on behind the scenes, just to Cynthia and to this ropu here, to my respected elders, to our kaumatua, students, and akonga, as the term students encapsulates a whole diverse range of people and ages. So I'd just like to acknowledge each and every one of you here today. So I'm juggling at the moment. I had an urgent phone call with my boss. As you know, I'm one of the deans, Dean Tikinga Maori at our college at St. John's here. And I'm actually in Opotiki. So while I'm lapping up the sun, the ocean, the whitebait and the mussels, I'm still delivering, I'm still doing mahi online. So yeah, not something nice to skate about. So all those in Auckland, Diocese of Auckland, Tāmaki Makaurau, thoughts and prayers with you all. I tēnei wā. So I'm going to share with you a bit of my, I've got a 20-minute research, 20-minute presentation, just Cynthia. Engari kia koe te tikanga. I got caught up and then I had troubles finding the link. However, I'm going to dive straight into it. Can you give me access to share screen?
Yep, I can. Now, how do I do that? Hang on.
So,
okay.
Te Hira Paenga, my third year of research.
Okay, you're there.
Okay, thank you. I'm in my third year of research. I'd just like to take the time to share with you my thesis, which is about the Maori performing arts. And feel free to ask questions and jot down some notes. We can either answer them at the end or as we go along, feel free. Doing aroa kupuhau research. I really appreciated the introduction in terms of haka, and this haka here, one of the famous haka from Te Tai Tokerau, kanuku nuku kaneke neke, really sets the foundation for my research, which is ultimately around shaping a model of theology on Kapahaka, or Maori performing arts. And we can go right back to 1814 to look at kaupapa Maori response by the uri, by the descendants and chiefs of our iwi, Te Tai Tokerau, in response to Hamuira Matinga, Samuel Marsden, as his first sermon, or essentially the first Eucharist hakari tapu on these shores. I'm not going to go into the theology and kaupapa behind this haka, and we're really lucky. There are a lot of publications. Bishop Kito being sort of my primary go-to on this piece. But I just want to, if we're in a marae or lecture theatre, I'd start my lecture by jumping up and performing, and I'd ask Cynthia to join me, kanuku nuku kaneke neke, which is a real foundation for my study, and for the fact that through this example and many other examples, we can see a theology of Maori performing arts. So what is Maori performing arts? I'm just using that term. It's a formal term used in tertiary New Zealand Qualifications Authority and the Ministry of Education, which is basically a reference to Kapahaka. And even this term, the word Kapahaka, is very modern. My generation grew up with that term. However, if you were to ask my parents and my grandparents, they just called it waiata or haka or ori or himene. But this term Kapahaka sort of come to the fore in the 1930s, 1940s as a term to encapsulate a whole lot of things, basically a whole lot of genres. And like everything in Māoridom, it's hard to keep bodies of knowledge in silo and single entities, as there's a lot of crossover. So for the terms in reference to MPA, Maori Performing Arts, and Kapahaka, this is what I'm referring to. So Kapahaka has many genres, which include poi, waiataringa, choral singing, himene singing, which I believe had a presentation by Uncle David Tapene and Auntie Kahu. It includes haka, and it also includes what we call a whakaeke and a whakawātea. And these genres are primarily taken from Kapahaka performances on stage. But there's another level to defining Kapahaka. Kapahaka could mean a support song such as E Torunga Mea or Te Aroha Te Whakapono, through to Qumranda, Guide Me O Thou Great Redeemer, E Hoa, our national anthem. But for my research, I'm primarily focusing on the staged performances like we witnessed on the video, and the performances which have a competition element to I'm just putting in a promo here for the churches, because actually the churches, majority of our churches got the Maori concert parties touring worldwide, particularly to Europe, and groups like the Methodist Maori Mission Party, the Ratana Cultural Party, and there's a Mormon Cultural Party, I've forgotten their name, Kia Ngāwari, I think, organise these big tours through the church, through their churches and their contacts, to promote te reo, waiata and Maori performing arts. The photo on the left, the Hui Tōpu 1963, there's a photo of 5 Maori warriors performing at our Anglican annual AGM / cultural festival / sports competition weekend, where all the Maori, not so much branch of the church, because it was too early back then, but it calls it under the formation of Tāpiramangata, formed a cultural festival and a gathering that not only worked around our church AGM business and governance forums, but included te reo speech competitions and the arts and sports. So this is the research, my research highlights how important our church, our faith, our church, our various hahi, our various churches had on the growth of Maori performing arts. The Anglicans had, as I said, hui tōpu. The Catholics had hui aranga. The Mormons had hui tau. The Presbyterians also called their gathering, they had hui aranga as well. And you've got the Ratana and the Ringatu with their various hui, church hui. So as I said before, the Kapahaka on stage performance is made up of these 7 components, and I'm just going to share a video. So for those of us who haven't attended Te Matatini,
months of unwavering commitment have all led to this. 4 electrifying days where stars are born and history is made. New Zealand's premier cultural event, Te Matatini 2015. Tickets on sale now.
So that's a brief snapshot into Te Matatini. I think that was Christchurch. So Te Matatini will be held in Auckland, fingers crossed, coming out of level, well, possibly with a call this Friday, in terms of access to public events and the restrictions around COVID restrictions, etc. And yeah, it's a very vibrant, fun festival, very entertaining. In my research, I've broken it into 5 basic components. I look at cultural compositions, as in the lyrics. The majority of the compositions are references to scripture. I analyze the performance from a theological perspective and also analyze their traditional regalia or their kakahu. I look into the influence of various tutors and their style of composing and their pedagogy, their teaching pedagogy and their tikanga, and how they're able to interweave church and kapahaka. I look at what I call hahi-based Hahi-based Kapahaka teams, which Whaja Cynthia is a part of, and sort of do a kōrero bio about how they operate. I do a bit of a background history revival of the importance of those church events, which I explained, the hui tōpū, the hui aranga, and how the matatini actually came off the back of these church festivals. And last but not least, which is sort of, I think the magic in the research is not so much how to prove that Kapahaka is a form of worship, but to acknowledge and put a spotlight over what our kuia, our nannies, our uncles and aunties have been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years, and realign and make the link. Actually, what you do in Kapahaka can align with various forms of theology, and I'll get into that soon. Obviously, one of the biggest challenges that I'm faced as a researcher is the resources and the written formal theorists for not only for Kapahaka, but for Maori performing arts and theology. And what I can see is basically, while we've got all these amazing compositions from various hapu and various iwi throughout the rohe, the academic rigor only sits with the reflections and the explanations of the composer. Excuse me. What I'm trying to delve into is that kaupapa Māori as a body of knowledge has lots and lots of resources and theorists in health and education and the sciences. So my research is a stepping stone into carving or redefining a theology of Kapahaka. These quotes are quite powerful quotes that I use to try and explain that all Kapahaka content is obviously written in te reo Māori. Having been brought up in the kaupapa Māori immersion system, very, very fortunate, one of the first students coming through the total Maori immersion learning schooling system in the 80s. I'm writing my research in te reo Māori. I owe it to my teachers, to my parents, who I believe envisaged this pathway for me to pursue my ideal. So that's sort of number one. And then the flip side of the coin, if I can get funding for somebody to translate it into English, I'd then open it up and share it with the world. But I'm having to explain to people, and particularly to Pākehā, I'm going to have to be a bit selfish and just concentrate on my reo, my iwi, my whānau, first and foremost, and then opening up this resource in taonga for everybody else, only because I owe it to that whakapapa first and foremost, and then sharing it. And as you would know, access to English for our people provided them with the power and the mana to read and to understand scripture. For our Māori people to read the Bible in te reo Māori. I gave them that ability to access scripture through te reo Māori. So what I'm trying to say here, te reo Māori is pretty much the pillar of my rangahau. This is an interesting quote which resonates with some of the teachings from my various tutors in terms of music theology and waiata. And there's an inference here that I te timatanga ko te kupu ko te atua, te kupu ko te atua no, te kupu I te timatanga. First and foremost is the word. And I'm talking in terms of the text and the lyrics of our song, Waiata and Haka. And when we're taught Waiata and Mōteatea, we're always taught that the message is key. The understanding, the knowledge which leads into enlightenment is key, and what follows the knowledge is what I call the lights, glamour, and makeup. You can jump up and down and scream and yell as loud as you want, but if your kupu, if your message isn't clear, your performance is weak. So this is a good quote to remind us that the music composition of music is extra to and supplementary to the kupu, and that's key, and that's very important from a theological perspective as well as a tikanga Maori perspective. Ko te kupu te mea nui. One of our mōteatea, one of our chants, and I imagine Whai Jacinth here would have shared this with everybody, is another example of where I can take what we do from church or chapel or liturgical setting and put it on stage. And we've had Kapahaka teams perform this, and we've had a senior Kapahaka team, Hatea. I don't know if we've seen Hatea footage, they're amazing. And also a secondary school from up north, Whangarei. And surprisingly, the remarks from the judges, how could I say it constructively, weren't in their favour. So I'm looking at in my research how I can take a snapshot of what we naturally do in chapel, or in church, and worship, and give examples on how groups do that on stage, and vice versa, and what Kapahaka teams do in their preparation and their learning and their content knowledge, what they do, and show how that fits into a worship setting, a church, a chapel, or a liturgical karakia setting. And it's really interesting. I'm not going to go through this more tete, but this is just an example. It's be expected that I do a big research on the Auckland Anglican Maori Club, one of the oldest faith-based Kapahaka teams in Tāmaki and in New Zealand, and particularly looking at the style of teaching by Archdeacon Sir Kingi Ihaka, and the interrelationship or the whanaungatanga that he would, I don't know about now, Whai Jacinth, before the Angies are expected to attend church, as well as a Kapahaka training during the evening, but it's providing the whole picture of what our people go through, how they learn, what they do, and share those stories through a theological lens. So Angies is a big part of that. This is just a quote defining the music system that Tākingi Ihaka would teach the club members, which I can confirm from Uncle Tom Ihaka, was taught to Kingi Ihaka while he was all students of Te Kao while they're teaching, while they're learning at the Te Kao school, and they grew up on this tonic sulfur music system. And funnily enough, this is a text of a waiata, harikoa, which was actually formatted by Uncle David Tapene, but it's using the music system, sonic tauwha, taught to him by Kingi Ihaka. And there's your basic layout there. Ko I hura are our lyrics. And then you've got these funny letters. I'm going from the ko I hura left, where my arrow is here. This top line is the music structure for the sopranos, next line for the altos, next line for the tenors, and then the bottom line for all the basses. And in my research, I'm finding, and this is one of the hard parts, I'm trying to find references, musical and theological references that talk about the difference in music composition, the nuances, the highs, the lows, and the tones, and bring out the theology in our wāta. It's exciting stuff. This is a classic example of a I think it's a waiata pui. On the left there is the Maori, and on the right is an English translation composed by a man called Rikirangi Gage, who is a ringatu minister. And this poi is in reference to Jesus Christ. There's reference to Te Koti, and with comparisons to Jesus Christ through suffering, references to the Old Testament as Te Koti being the Lamb of God and the sacrifice for his iwi. So there are many, and this is just one example, many compositions with all these biblical references. And growing up in Kapahaka, growing up in Kapahaka and then going through theological training, it's not until you can take a step back and then join all the dots and realize that Maori performing arts is more than the performance. Performance, I believe, is at the superficial, looking cool, looking flash level, and it's not until dive into the kaupapa and the wānanga and the meaning and the explanations and the values and the relationships of these themes between us and atua, us and ihu karate, you think, wow, there's actually a huge body of theological knowledge through these various compositions. And these compositions, as I said before, go right back to 1814. Just to finish up, these are some themes, some kaupapa I've managed to weave into my research that really stand out from a theological perspective. The research is the body of knowledge is vast in comparison to kaupapa Maori and Maori theorists. I'm seeing all my Maori theorists and researchers are actually coming from the arts department, Auckland, Massey, and that's Kate's Pai as well. Just to finish up with this final quote by Archdeacon Honeka. And when you get a growling from Honeka, I feel like a full-on haka. So I really like his quote. Haka becomes a tool to embody the sense of self-determination and a platform for the proclamation of a new and radical ideology. Haka should be understood as a form of shouted poetry or dramatized form of karakia. It involves vigorous body movement and the stamping of either or both feet. The actions of the haka complement the words, and the meaning through actions are often the choice of the individual involved. I'm just going to finish off with this last clip here. One of my good mates is a tutor and minister of the Ratana faith.
Arite, nau mai, toru, wha.
The rhythmic beat of the poi echoes across the small settlement of Ratana near Whanganui.
Bye, ladies. Can we just run that one just again, please, for toes? So she cuts in front of you, eh? Yeah. Can we run that one, please?
It's the final weekend rehearsal or noho for Te Reanga Mōrehu o Ratana, and performer Shay Rogan is feeling it.
I think the pressure is slowly creeping in more and more. Because we live normal lives every other day, we have to sort leave, we have to sort kids, we have to sort everything else. So allowing this weekend just to let the pressure sink in, and then now we can get in the zone.
The group represents the Ratana faith. They started rehearsing in September, and since January, they've spent every weekend together.
So the commitment factor was huge. You were given a month to look at the calendar and think, can you do this? Can you do this wholeheartedly? Can you drop everything? Because there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this. There's a lot of mahi. I mean, some of us have to give our babies out to elsewhere just so we can focus on the floor.
Justin Lee Manuel lives in Auckland and has been travelling to Ratana every weekend.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a lot of blood, sweat and tears, a lot of travel time. But I guess when you come back home and you're doing it with people you enjoy doing it with, it just makes it that much more easier.
Te Reanga Mōrehu o Ratana has the added pressure of being the first group to take the stage this morning, but Shay Rogan says it works in their favour.
Opening up that pressure is more excitement because we get to take everyone to church. Everyone gets to come. We get to whakatūwhirei tēnei hui I raro I ngā manaakitanga iho, te rungarawa, o ngā anahera pono, o ngā tūpuna, karanga asu kia rātou, no maharama ki te matatini o te ao.
The group's bracket will feature phrases used in the Ratana church service. Te Tai Pakameta is one of the tutors.
If we get to just one person, then we've done our job. Not particularly to convert, I mean, it'd be nice. However, we just do what we do, tell them who we are, preach the good news, and then hopefully they get a better understanding of the maramatanga of Ratana and of the gospel.
60,000 people are expected to flood Wellington over the next week for the event. This will be Justin Lee Manuel's 6th time performing at Nationals.
More often than not, when people say they're not nervous, they are nervous, and it's how you manage that and how you, I guess, tame those butterflies in order for you to perform at your most peak. I'm amped. I'm excited. I'm so excited to finally go down, and I realised that we're at this point, and I just can't wait to get out there and smash it.
After Te Reanga Mōrehu o Ratana, a further 45 groups will perform. The winner will be announced on Sunday. Te hōtaka o te ata.
Yeah. That's me. Very rushed, but it is what it is. If you have any questions, kia koutou. Kia koe, Cynthia.
Oh, kia ora te hira. Oh, wonderful, wonderful insights. Yes, and you're resonating, of course, with a lot of the kōrero that, John put down and Kahu put down last week as well. So, and I sort of just briefly reiterated some of those messages about we have a message. There is a message, be it biblical, be it culture, be it whakapapa, be it a take, it all can be done through Kapahaka. So if you stop sharing your screen for a moment.
Hi.
Kapai. Okay, so now I'm hoping that there's going to be some questions. I know there is definitely one, but does anyone have a pātai question kia te hira? Vicky.
Kia ora te Hira.
Kia ora, Vicky. Long time. I didn't recognise you.
Yes. I said wanted to add about people who are not who do not identify as Christian, but go back to the old Maori religion. And I do Kapahaka, and it's how it's how could you say something about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to make an attempt at answering your question, Vicky, but it's really cool with our sports teams and the international profile that Kapahaka receives. That's all good, and how symbolic Kapahaka and Waiata is to Aotearoa. And through my parents and myself, we've always encouraged that Kapahaka is just the waka or the vehicle to access tikanga, reo, and bits and pieces. And it's actually a taonga that's unique to all of us, and it's a taonga that can be shared through all of us. And not only my research, but other researchers having to break down the misconceptions and stereotypes around haka. For example, haka being a war dance, only associated to aggression, to hate, to slang, to whakahawe and whakaiti. But you look through the history books, or the compositions anyway, there's haka about love, haka about carrying food, haka about doing a pātero, haka about birthdays, haka, many various types of haka. So it's informing our people as well that yes, atua Maori were sourced and had whakapapa to these haka. Through the introduction of the gospel, we're able to interweave and open our thinking to, I honestly believe, Christian values, Cynthia, which I believe are aroha manaki, and tiaki, which are actually Christian values, but that's another one. So yeah, this research, as I said, it's work in progress. I'm on my third year, minus 6 months, because the COVID that went on last year. It's redefining and reshaping what this body or what this kaupapa is going to look like. So I'm actually getting support. I'm building the plane as it flies, literally. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Ka pai. Well, you know, manu, I mean, they naturally lose feathers along the way and then they grow new ones. So, you know, you're right up there with building the plane. Anyone else have a pātai? I think Megan had one.
No, it was just that Deb had put a comment in the chat.
Oh, right.
Maybe Deb could speak to that. That was an interesting thought.
Oh, kia ora te Hira. My thought was you were talking about Kapahaka, and my thought was it made me reflect on Augustine's statement about grace being the outward visible sign of an inward spiritual journey. And I wondered if you could say Kapahaka is the same. It's that outward visible expression of the inward journey and knowledge and growth and affirmation of certain principles or certain revelations about God, and about you know, you were just saying before about you know, Māori pre-Christian and Māori Christian, and that the cross is sort of like it has fulfilled or transformed or enlivened Māori understanding of the spiritual anyway. And it's just through the cross, it's made it grow and embellished it as opposed to diminishing it. So those were my thoughts.
No, tautoko. And another section of my research is Kapahaka components. And this is me having to try and define what, maybe on the same page as that kōrero, what the X factor is, and having to put ihi, wehi, wana, tapu onto paper, and trying to put onto paper what we see, what we feel. And I'm not talking about just the physical touch, but the spiritual rongo as well is I think going to be the icing on the cake in terms of validating, not so much validating, but highlighting this unique tongue and what it can bring to the theological space.
Amen. Monica, you had a question?
Like Deb, it rang a bell with me. Actually, we started off saying the Pakeha European haven't got that. That is actually not altogether true. We had the bards, the troubadours, the liedermacher, in the different countries we had them, which then turned to minstrels, the guys who came and told our history with song, only we took them out when pop music and the Beatles arrived.
Kia ora, I agree. Psalm 150 is I see all these images, harps, music, trombones, and I see our people doing the haka and singing and joy and jubilation. So I totally agree, not only to Te Iwi Māori, but this is definitely a thumbs up for the arts, all the arts in this space.
Kay here. I'm really interested in what we've been talking about in relation to worship with our whole bodies.
Kia ora.
And I'm really struck by the sense in our Anglican liturgy that there's a real stiffness and a real boredom with it. Stand up, sit down, keep moving.
Amen.
That feels just not of God. It feels stale, and I feel myself that I feel very energized by movement, and I keep trying to think about how with our Pakeha parishioners, how we can revitalize the idea of movement, not just through I mean, I think some of that comes through song and perhaps more modern worship, but there's something lost in that also. So yeah, I'm just, it's a comment rather than a question, but I miss worshiping with my whole body. I miss that. And I don't know if that's, I mean, my heritage, I'm a Scot. I don't know if it's about that, and as a Scot in the Anglican Church, it may, I don't know, that's for another time, but yeah, it's just a comment about how staid we are in our physical worship, and it makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can I offer that? We did training in Jamaica in an Anglican context.
Wow.
We were invited in, and it was so, and you will appreciate what I'm saying here, it was so Anglican, more Anglicans, 18th century Anglicans than the Anglicans were. And it was boring, and all the dresses in that hot climate and all the rest of it, the steep roof because of the snow and all that crap. So sorry, I did scrap that from the recording.
You might have to edit the video.
And then when that liturgy and all that Anglicanism service was over, they said, and let's now get the steel pans out. And they had fun. And Philip and Church Army, we were there saying, guys, cut out what came beforehand. Stick with this. This is who you are. And actually, we did not just train them in evangelism. We also encouraged them to get back to who they really are. And you should have seen the life and the movement and the joy that was there.
Kia ora, Monica, and I'll just add, and that could be shared with anybody. Like, as Māori, I want to say this is our tonga, and in this space, we can all learn it and all do it. the premises and the rule of thumb is learn it properly, do it properly, hear the full story as we do with scripture, delve into the context, its meaning and how appropriate and applicable, when to and when not to. And that's sort of the biggie with this, that it belongs to us. Yeah. Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora, Te Hira. Gosh, I mean, I've got a dozen questions, but I'm not going to ask them all, of course, because I don't want to impose. Next time, next time I see you at practice. But it's certainly that church versus culture, you know, something that I've always, that's one of the things that's been on my mind is, you know, how can we be both? How do we be both? And that's where is the mutual reciprocity, I think, is one of the things that I always seek in Te Hahi Mihingare. And I was Katorika for more years than I've been Mihingare. But you know, where do we find that mutual reciprocity more? And I think through your research, if I could just say that your research excites me. Because it is there, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was living in Brisbane and we had a group called Te Mana Wairua, you may have heard of them, and ngā kupu o te atua anake. Anake. And so, you know, te whakapono o ngā apatoro, the Apostles' Creed, that was our mōtete, and we did it fiercely, man, fiercely. Man, I tell you what, it was awesome. And if you didn't know your reo, perhaps it would slip by. But, you know, here we are proclaiming our faith in our kapahaka over in Ahitereiria in Piripane. And the other one, of course, which I love bringing up, and this group are already familiar with the liturgies that I use in a way to enhance the word in a different way. Not so much in that staid way that's been suggested, if I could put it that way, but bringing it out in another way. And of course, the other one is poi on page 154. Again, ka kingi. You know, Gumbo! Can you? I mean, gosh, man! I tell you what, when I yell that in a room, and some of you may have already experienced that, I yell it. Gumbo! You know, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, man, I tell you what. And what is that? That's in our book. It's in our prayer book. And so I totally tautoko your mahi and all the research that you're doing on it. And I know how difficult it is finding authorship, if you like, in this area. And you're having to rely on the spoken word, storytelling, you know, all those sort of things that have been handed down, like hone, like tākingi, and many others. And so the sooner we can find that balance of mutual reciprocity in kapahaka and liturgy and the reo, even, you know, in its entirety, the sooner we can enhance our ministry, enhance our proclamation, enhance our mission. So I look forward to seeing what your research brings out. Anyway, nō reira, kei a koe, Chris.
Mauri ora ki a tātou. E koana te nākau I tai mai ahau ki tēnei zui I runga I te reo karanga o te rā, te kapahaka. Karoria ki te atua kaharawa. Karoria ki te karaiti, te pōherenga waka. Karoria ki te wairua tapu, te kupu o te atua. E te matua, te minita, te hira, Paenga, tēnā koe. E te ahuarangi tikanga Maori, tēnā koe. E te pukenga mō tēnei rā, tēnā koe. Ko Chris Harris tōku ingoa, no Peretana o Kutupuna, kei te noho au ki ngā whā, ko Ngāti Rangi, te mana whenua ki kone. Nā mihi nui ki a koe, mō tau tohu tohu, mō tēnei rā. Ka tau ke. Nā tau raurau, nā taku raurau, ka ora ai te iwi. Kia kaha te ako, kia kaha te kapahaka, kia kaha te Pāti Maori, kia kaha te reo Maori. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a tātou katoa.
Te aroha, te
whakaporo,
me te ranga Maori e tātou katoa.
Ka pai, ka pai. Kia ora, Chris, mō tō mihi kia te hira I te ata nei.